Good morning, everyone. Last night we had our budget. It was the 14th of May. The budget was handed down by Dr. Jim Chalmers, our treasurer. And I did say that I would probably do a podcast, but I really don't think there's enough in it to do a podcast or a news or not a newsletter, but an article about it. So I just thought I'd quickly do a video because quite honestly, today is the 15th of May and that's the final lodgement day. So we've got a lot ahead of us today. But I know people are always keen to know what's in the budget for them and maybe weren't as interested as me in watching it and reading through all the myriad of newsletters that I've got this morning from all the accounting professionals telling me what's in the budget. Now, I'm not going to talk about a lot of the spending things that were to do with cost of living or all the different targeted areas that are probably not so much tax related. I probably will really just focus on the very small amount that is tax related. So there really isn't that much in it, to be honest. Okay, I guess the headline was that for the 2023-2024 year, which is just about to finish, the budget was actually in a surplus of $9.3 billion, which is good, but apparently that is because there were some late tax revenues that have been picked up. But the prediction for the next couple of years is there's going to be some pretty big deficits, which is probably expected given there's quite a lot of spending. Now, this budget's all about trying to provide assistance for cost of living without making inflationary pressures, which is a very hard thing to do. But anyway, we'll talk through some of the things that they've done. Now, the biggest headline, of course, has been the tax cuts that are coming in from the 1st of July 2024, so just a few weeks away. Everyone is going to get a little bit more in their pay. Anyone who's on PAYG, they're going to get a little bit more in their pay because those tax rates are changed. Now, there's nothing new in this. This has been around for a while. We talked about it many times because it was originally the stage 3 tax cuts that were introduced by the Liberal government quite a few years ago, and they have now been taken away and replaced by the new stage 3 tax cuts, which provide a little bit more assistance at the lower end of the tax scale and less assistance at the higher end of the tax scale. So you will look forward to getting those in your tax return or in your pay packets really from the 1st of July 2024. I won't go into them anymore. I think I've talked about them enough. One of the other things that came out of this budget for individuals is that there is a capping of the help debts. So if you have a help debt, which is because you've studied at university, it might be a HECS or it might be a VET. There's a few different programs there, study assistance programs that will allow you to defer the payment and essentially pay it through the tax system once you earn a certain amount of money. Now, that's been working very nicely until last year when all of a sudden the rates that you pay on the interest are indexed to the CPI and suddenly went from about 0.06 to about 7.1%. So a huge increase within a 2-year period. So they announced last week that they're going to cap those rates on the lower of the CPI or the wage price index, and they're actually going to backdate that to the 1st of June 2023. What that means is instead of 7.1%, that rate will be down to 3.2%. That was for the 2023-2024 year. The current year we're about to head into, the rate is going to be 4% instead of, I think it was 4.7%. So it will be a little bit less than what it would have been otherwise. So I'm sure that's welcome relief to people who have a HECS debt or a help debt. The issue is that's not going to help with your cost of living because you're still going to be paying back the same amount because the money is withheld from your wages at a rate and you pay it back. It just means you'll pay it back a bit quicker because you're not going to have so much interest on that. The big announcement for small business is that they are extending the instant asset write-off for being $20,000 for another financial year. So that will kick in from the 1st of July 2024 to the 30th of June 2025. Interestingly enough, the legislation for the extension in the last budget has still not gone through. And what happened was the $20,000 that was in the budget last year has actually went through, the legislation started to go through and it was pushed back, and it was actually agreed that, or the new bill has that it will be for $30,000. Now, the $30,000 is not the $30,000 is for anyone who previously the $20,000 was for anyone who has is a small business less than $10 million. The $30,000 is for less than $50 million turnover. So they've changed that around a little bit. It hasn't come into law yet. So at the moment, I think we should still be sticking to the $20,000. If you happen to have bought something under $30,000 and that law comes in, great, we will pick that up. But we don't really know at this stage. And so it might be that we go from unlimited to 30,000 to 20,000. We're not really sure at this stage, but I wouldn't be necessarily holding off on buying something if you need it. But again, I've always say don't go and buy something just for the tax deduction. We don't really know whether it's 30,000 or 20,000. And if it is over that, we will be depreciating it if you're a small business, using the depreciation pooling method, which means in the first year you'll get 15% depreciation, depending on what the asset is, of course. If you're not sure, please check with me. All right, they have done a few changes to the Medicare low level income threshold. So they have for this financial year that we just finished, they've actually increased that low level threshold slightly. It probably won't make difference to many people, but if essentially if you're under a certain level, you don't pay Medicare, and that has increased slightly up from what it was previously for the year that we're about to do the tax return for. So that might help a few people who are on that lower end of the income level. They've introduced this energy relief bill. This will affect pretty much everyone. The energy relief bill will allow households to get a $300 credit. It will be automatically applied to your electricity bills in this current financial year that we're about to go into. In the year we're about to go into, from the 1st of July 2024. Now, if you're a small business, you'll get $325 off the bill. So it will be done directly with your energy supplier. You don't have to apply for anything. And unlike in the past, it doesn't require any kind of means testing. Essentially, I think every bill will get a discount unless you're a big business. Other interesting things that have been in some of the papers that I've seen, it would look like the ATO are trying to stop you being able to claim general interest charge as a tax deduction from the 1st of July 2025. Now, that might not mean much to some people, but clearly if you are getting payment arrangements and you're maybe playing with interest rates to try and maximise how much money you've got in your business as opposed to paying the tax office instead of actually what we call using the bank of the tax office, you won't be able to get a tax deduction for that interest expenditure anymore, which can be quite a lot. So maybe something to think about as we go into 2025. That's another year away. I mean, it would be good not to have payment arrangements with the ATO, essentially. One of the other big ticket items that seems to be spending on it, and I'm not going to go into the details in minute detail, but there's a lot of money being directed towards the ATO and also the NDIS with regard to compliance programs. We have seen certain task force set up over the last few years, and they've all been extended and funded for even more, with the intention of trying to stop fraud, to stop fraud, to collect taxes that should have been collected. There's a lot of money going to be directed at people who haven't paid their superannuation obligations, and also they're going to be working towards, some of that funding is working towards the payday super that we've talked about for 2025. So that's not that far away, or 2026. I'm not quite sure the date that starts, but it's coming soon. Paid parental leave now from the 1st of July 2025. If you do start to take paid parental leave, you will be paid super on that. So that's quite a nice thing for those people who are on paid parental leave. I don't really know that there's that much more. There is some money being directed to this Making Australia, of what is it called, Future Made in Australia program. Quite a lot of money made at that, directed to that. It doesn't really kick in for a few years yet, and it will be directed at those bigger businesses. So I don't know that any of my clients are particularly going to benefit out of that, unless you're a critical minerals producer or a hydrogen producer, which I don't really see being my client. that is something that is going to be sort of shown as a great thing for the economy, but and it probably will be, but it's not probably going to affect us small businesses in any way directly. They have, for small business, they have announced that they are funding $41.7 million over 4 years for the following initiatives to support small business. They want to increase resourcing the payment times reporting regulator. Now, I didn't even know that existed. Apparently, there's a regulator who we can report if someone is paying us slowly, and with the intention of making them able to get those payments in faster. We know that's a big issue for small businesses, where bigger businesses might withhold payments, which causes a lot of issues. They're extending the New Access for Small Business Owners program and the Small Business Debt Helpline. Again, I haven't really looked into those that much, but I think it's something we might need to look at. They're improving the franchise code of conduct sector and making it easier for small businesses to operate in that sector. And they're expanding the services offered of the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman, which helps small businesses resolve disputes. Now, probably, again, most of those things aren't going to affect you directly, but they might be something that you might need to look into at some stage. So otherwise, there's really probably nothing that much that I can see that's of any particular benefit to small businesses, with the exception of the $20,000 write-off and extension, which is probably a good thing. Also, that little bit of relief you're going to get in your energy bills. And I guess the big thing for me is they're going to be putting a lot of money towards making sure that we're compliant. So if ever there's a time to make sure you're doing things right, now's the time. Anyway, look, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff in the news over the next few days, but I just wanted to give you my thoughts on it, and I hope you have a nice day, and let's get this lodgement period over. 15th of May, we're finally here, and I do have extensions for most of the clients until 5th of June, so we are still actively working to get these lodgements done, but just bear in mind we're pretty busy at the moment. Thanks, have a lovely day, bye.